but never.
Soon this will all be a whole new experience again.
Never ever the same. Ever the
Never
same.
what?
Never exactly the
No,
same.
it can't be.
That's
can't
it.
be.
You're gonna edit it.
Action, Edmond. Take your card.
How about realistic illusion? Isn't that what we live all the time? Look at it.
Realistic illusion.
That's how we live our lives.
Go for it. Pick a card, any card.
All right, let's see. Make sure it's the right way around. I am the future past.
It's show business. That's what show business is. It's realistic illusion.
I think maybe for me that in my experience, the universe is a collection of things that have happened before and now, and it's the same thing repeating.
Then what's the difference between a reality and a fantasy?
It's your filter. It's each and every one of us at this table have a certain filter.
I have no filter. I just, anything goes. But, well, you know
It's
that.
a strong
Okay.
cigarette
I know,
you are.
That's what happens, you know.
No, but you see, if we only view things through a filter, if it's impossible to look at things objectively, then what's the difference between a true reality and a fiction?
I just think it's a repetition of the things that we're just learning. It's just a learning curve. That's what that means to me, maybe. And then see what you do in the future with it.
People live in denial.
Right.
So they're denying the fantasy of what they think should be reality?
Here's
Sorry, I'm getting a little convoluted
if
here.
you want reality, you have to be objective about your subjectivity.
Yeah, right.
That's true.
Right.
That's reality. But how do you get there? That's really tricky.
You have to be aware of the level of your awareness.
The only difference is between Patty's living in the moment versus being the moment.
Kind of reminds me of the notion of deja vu. Just
Yeah.
in that sort of feeling of, you're walking down the street, it's a certain temperature, it's a certain time of day, and you're thinking, I've felt this before. I felt this exact feeling before, and I can't even pinpoint it down.
We're all time element. That's how we function. All it is in the air, telepathic bits of information interacting, and nobody's in control. Wow, what kind of God is this? This is amazing.
I think it's because we're in the future from our past right now.
But what about a world in which there is no such thing as magic?
Is there such a world as no such thing as magic?
Yes, and we are living in it.
Wouldn't someone then maybe say those things that are not necessarily explainable, those being the things that are magical? Like you had said, we live in a world without magic, but maybe magic are the things that we have yet to understand.
Excuse me.
Or maybe everything is actually magical in the first place.
Excuse me. Have you ever heard about the M theory?
The what theory?
M theory?
I have not.
Okay, well, that's beyond the U theory, which is unknown theory, string theory, and so on. The M theory stands for magic. or mother. You cannot go back, you cannot go to the future. You just in a transition. Keep it transition. Or there are a few metrics and some other M.
Did you just make that up?
Yeah. What are you talking
It's
about?
in my book.
Yeah. Sorry.
I know it's your house, but okay.
But if you explain everything by magic, then you've explained nothing. No, maybe you don't want to explain it.
Is this what you were trying to say, that in the past, well, I'm the future past. So right now is going to be the past in the future.
Yeah.
What we're doing right now
And
in the
it's also
future will be past.
It's also, we're in the future from our past.
Is that what it means?
We can also say that what's happening right at this very moment is also going to be happening in the future because we're shooting it all.
Has anybody ever read The Last Unicorn or seen the movie? That makes me think about the witch. There's a carnival witch who discovers, what this witch does is she picks up old creatures on the side of the road, like an old lion, and she puts a spell on it that makes it look like a manticore, or like a little old snake, and makes it look like a hydra. And peasants look at the illusions and they think they're seeing these things, and then she picks up a real unicorn that's sleeping on the side of the road, but people can't see unicorns anymore because there's no more magic in human consciousness. So she has to put the same spell on the unicorn to make it look like a unicorn, so it has two horns, and one is real and one is false, and people are looking at a unicorn, but only because they see the false horn.
Whoa. 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 And I'm not even drinking. Caffeine.
What is that? Why are you, whoa?
Well, because I had to think about it. First it made me think of a devil, and then I kind of didn't get the concept, because I'm probably one of those people who can't see what the witch wanted you to see. So she did this, because I'm one of those people that's not that deep. It's like kind of what you see is what you get. It's like, is it a unicorn or not? I don't know.
It is.
Can you re-explain that?
It's a real unicorn.
Okay.
But what this witch's shtick is that she takes just ordinary animals, so she might as well have found a horse. And she wants people to see the unicorn, but she's like, I still got to put the spell on it, because nobody's going to know it's a unicorn, because people can't see magic anymore.
Because they couldn't see it for the beauty it was, even as it was, so they had to make it like it was something it wasn't, so that they would accept it.
Yeah, so like in this book, like I should probably have explained, humans have lost the ability to tell the difference between a horse and a unicorn. So there are unicorns maybe everywhere.
So basically you're saying we're not that deep, we're just living in the moment, especially in a busy world. And I do agree with you that we don't go deep, we're just I'll speak for myself, we're pretty superficial, living in the moment.
But there has to be some kind of show business to make people realize they're looking at a genuine article.
Spin
sometimes,
it has
not
to be
just,
spun.
Yeah.
It needs a PR. The unicorn needs a PR.
I hear a description of entertainment or politics. I don't hear a description of real life, if you're agreeing on that to that statement.
But I want magic. I want there to be magic. Otherwise, the reality I see is not the reality I like or the reality I want. That's why I'm in show business, because I want magic. I want fantasy. I'd rather live in a fantasy world than in the real world that we're living in, because that I really can't take. So I love the unicorn.
I am the future past. Like in the future, I'm going to think back on this. Like I'm also in the past just as much as I am in the future. So what I'm doing right now will in the future be in the past.
Yeah.
The key is to embrace that entire timeline. The key is to embrace all of the moments and see them all as equally powerful. So when I wake up in the morning, if I've got two choices ahead of me, and I say I'm going to either take this one or I'm going to take this one, I can give a gift to future me and say, oh, future me will really like this one. And I'll put it in here. And then later on in the day, because I'm very forgetful, oh, thank you, past me. That was a really amazing thing you've just done, because I know I will forget. And so the gift to future me is to set things up so that future me will succeed.
It seems that we can create our own unicorns, or that we want to create our fantasy. And a fantasy to someone may not be the fantasy to someone else, or it all depends on your own imagination or what you're trying to perceive or what you're looking for. You can see the fantasy in it and you accept it as reality.
Then what's the difference between a reality and a fantasy?
I grabbed neutral nature. I saw that there, and I thought, okay, that seems like a
neutral nature.
Neutral nature.
Neutral nature.
So we've gone from magic and realism and realistic illusion to neutral nature, which I have been explained is a place of just being. That nature exists, nature does its own thing. We're all nature. Self-creation, and so now we're on a neutral plane as nature, and that means that in a weird way then everything is neutral at all times.
Exactly.
because I am future me. I'm past me, I'm future me, I'm all of them at the same time. And embracing that and being grateful to future me, being grateful to past me, knowing that me right now is still a permutation of all of those, that we're all on this line, but that line, we can occupy that whole line all at the same time and try and embrace that line all at the same time.
But the ultimate reason for me doing it is to bring you to a state of neutrality, to the natural forces, which is neutral, bring you to that so you'll feel rejuvenated. The word of covenant is interconnected for humanity, the human race, to understand our beingness and how we are connected, if you wish, God.
I'm in a constant state of trying to experience right now beyond, like, there's always like this intention way far ahead of me that I've been trained to, like, you know, move towards. But like when I heard it, I thought of, like, we are the you can live in a space where you are the shadow of some future intention.
Every nanosecond, as soon as you start to think, you are separating yourself actually from totality in the best possible.
And you always talk like this, Edmond, but I come from a survivalist background. The way I was raised and like street stuff and just survive. My brain doesn't go that deep, and I like to think about the lovely things you say, but I have a survivalist attitude and a survivalist brain and a survivalist body. And so it's hard for me to think that pleasantly about life. I'm just saying.
I don't think it's possible to live in the moment. I think it's impossible, because I think that every moment that we live in is a reflection of everything that we did and everything that we're going to do. And I think that's part of the reason people meditate. Maybe they don't even realize that. Is to sort of try and find what it feels like to be in the moment. It's not very easy, because there's always a where that you're going and a place that you've been. And so the moment is really difficult, and I think that might be part of the attraction to television, because that forces you to pay attention in the moment, right there and then, to the plot line, to the story, to the dialogue, and not be able. But if we left ourselves alone in a room with nothing, just bare walls, where would we be?
We talk about why can't people see the way you see things and,
Right.
and being neutral. And most people are almost like animals scrounging around for nuts, looking just to survive.
Not
They don't have
almost
the
like,
time.
we are animals, let's face it. You want to understand yourself, watch the animal kingdom. You will understand yourself perfectly, with one exception. The animal kingdom is there, just like has been all along. Humanity, we need to understand that we are the last link in the chain of creation.
But maybe that's why it's just called a moment, because all you can do is have moments like that. Like when you go to a park and you're with your dogs or something, and you just for a second look at the sun. Like I had a moment out there looking at the balcony. I don't think it's possible to be constantly in a state of nowism, I agree, but I also feel that definitely you can have moments where you can forget yourself, and sometimes seeing movies and stuff is a way to forget.
That's a very interesting image that you bring up, because I don't know much about animal psychology. I don't really know what they do or whether or not they find ways to do this, but at least I think of animals as trying to preserve their own kind or their own species and their own little communities. But human beings, even though we're all generally human beings, we tend to like to destroy one another, which is interesting. And I wonder what it is about our history, about our habitat, that makes us as creatures want to kill creatures like ourselves.
In our culture, we place the prime is on thinking. And even kids, we say, what do you want? And we're not letting them grow the emotions first. So we're like skipping a level. So instead of just like feeling our dreams, like you were saying, Like you're feeling the dream, and it has to do with thought, but it's feeling. Because dream is really like feeling. I think that's what it's like, raw feelings. Because it's provoking your thoughts because you're not paying attention to your emotions. So it's provoking you.
Not when you understand the mechanism.
But that's how many people in our society are functioning on that.
That's why we are here.
And that's why, exactly.
We are here to learn a new view or a new window to the world.
Yes.
And that's your eyes.
Yeah.
And your perception.
I kind of think of it like your brain's like a computer and it's just sort of like running a few of
That's
the things.
exactly it. The whole universe works in exactly the same fashion, and that's what the scientific community is searching for. The God particle, they said they found it. They did not find it in their head, they found it in the machine. But it's in their head.
So we got
Every person has a large hadron collider in their brain. So you're talking about instinct. Instinct, what the definition of instinct? I'll give you mine. Is the combination of total information you have within your system in a fraction of a second. And that's what the animal kingdom experience all the time. We think we are the thinkers. Forget it. It's not your thought. Don't take credit for it because it's haphazard anyway. It's chaotic. You don't know where it's coming from. So don't call it your thought. You might take credit for your feelings. That is yours.
Edmond, what do you mean that your thoughts aren't
I'm sorry?
yours? What do you mean about thoughts, that they're not yours?
Your thought is not yours. Where is it coming from?
From your nervous system and
But
computation
the
brain?
experience, you see, you don't experience your thought. You experience your feeling, but not your thought.
I don't understand why you're distinguishing between thinking and feeling. Everything you've said about thinking, it seems to me, could also be applied to your feeling.
I agree. Thinking is a flash of the dark, right? Like a flash. All of a sudden I had this thought and came and gone, as we said. Well, I can get very upset at something. I can get extremely angry. And within 10 minutes I cannot be angry anymore. That's a shot in the dark too. But a thought that I have has the potential of staying with me a lot longer. And the emotion that comes from that thought kind of can stick to that thought, but the thought doesn't go away faster than the emotion. For example, if I lose a bet, I'm gambling, I lose a bet. Now I'm really upset that I lost that money. And I'm going to be upset that I lost that money until I stop thinking about it. Once I stop thinking about losing the money, now why am I upset? I have no reason to be upset because I don't have something giving me that reason.
Well, if only it were that easy. But the reality is that you weren't upset about losing the bet in the first place. You were upset because you're having troubles with your wife, because this is the only way that you find enjoyment, spending some of your money, seeing it grow, seeing it collapse. You keep doing it every week because you think it's going to save you from your own self-pity.
Yeah.
So, and then it upsets you when you lose
right.
that $100, but...
Are we fighting?
That was hypothetical. She really directed that.
One of my favorite quotes by T.S. Eliot is, "In a minute there is time for visions and revisions, which a minute will reverse." And it's everything can happen right now, but at the same time it could all change. And it's being in tune with that constant fluctuation of the change and adapting to it and understanding the responsibility of the time, that you make your own time and you are the time, you are time, and it's all about how you use it and what you're doing with it.
When James Brown said everything is on the one, it put it in perspective for me. There's days when I wake up and I feel like I woke up on the one, and everything that happens is, I feel like I'm in the rhythm of life in a way that where it's actually almost like just being in line with my intentions, and everything, every step of the way down the line that day is like the magic of this realm I've experienced.
But what I'm trying to say is that we think that we know what's making us upset, but in reality, there are so many things that are contributing to our feelings at any given moment that it doesn't, just because we're experiencing it at the moment does not necessarily mean that we are experiencing it because of the moment.
So, but are then thoughts and feelings interconnected? Are they separated? Are they?
Well, that's a deep fucking
Yeah.
philosophical
That
debate.
is what we're here
I don't-
for.
Have you ever heard of the is?
The I dot S dot?
It just is. Everything just is, but it's not that is. This is stands for information system or infinity squared. That is the ultimate equation of the universe.
What's infinity squared, dude? What's that mean?
It's creation and action.
No, I mean,
That's
what's that mean, infinity squared?
Infinity time infinity, you might want to consider that the universe is dualistic, but essentially it's all creative time. Creation. Time is the creator. Time creates. Time is God.
It's just the concept of squared, though, that's confusing to me because...
Square?
Squared. Infinity squared.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking you about it.
But why is it
Well,
confusing?
Because if you have a number and it's times 2, you know what that is, times 3, times 4, infinity is endless.
Because if infinity includes everything,
Right.
what do you gain from squaring?
It sounds more like a poem.
It sounds more.
but
It
that
sounds
is-
more like the use of the English language rather than
poetically.
something actually happening.
Right.
And I think everybody
That's
does
technical.
understand what you mean.
Technical,
That it's
you're
like
right,
equal and
but
opposite.
philosophically, it's different. You understand that there are two universes. The universe is dualistic, and they work together, and that's where you have. If you don't understand infinity squared, do you understand MC squared?
Vaguely.
Ah,
I'm
so
being
you
honest,
don't understand
vaguely.
either. Either you understand it or you don't.
It's because I don't understand why the speed of light would always be constant, so that would be part of not understanding it.
Well,
You had a very interesting way of assimilating the thought.
Oh, right. To me, it sounds like, and what I think people are intuitively getting, the infinite equal and opposite energy creating, facilitating creation, that it's equal and opposite. That's what I hear when I hear you say infinity squared, is that, for infinity, equal and opposite forces are interacting with each other.
Why do we need this duality?
Because it exists.
He's saying tangible and intangible.
Intangible, tangible. You don't have, then you have.
Which is a reality.
And they're both infinity.
Right.
But what's the option beyond duality? What's the dual nature of duality?
I don't
That's
see
a
why
joke.
you. Why? Thank you.
Why would you say duality? You're questioning that idea?
Yes. Why have we leapt to duality? Why isn't it just unity or what's the word? What's the word for three?
Oh, okay.
Why
Why is it a
two?
triad? Why is it?
Why not a triad? Why
Why?
not a unit? Why not a unad?
What would be
Yeah.
the third thing? Because this
I don't
intangible
know.
is... Huh?
Oh, tangible and intangible. I'm sorry. That sounds like parts of the same thing.
Actual creation is when you're not thinking about the foot that's behind you, and you're not thinking about the foot that's in front of you. It happens in that instant, and it's surprise. It's you didn't know it was going to happen.
At the speed of time,
Mm-hmm.
not the speed of light,
Mhm.
the speed of time. Initial consciousness, just at the threshold.
Suddenly a thought comes in.
It's what?
Suddenly a thought comes in, it's a premonition of creation. You mean that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly that. Yeah.
Where would that come from?
That's the good question.
So-called God wouldn't know
It just is. It just is.
So that's very unsatisfying.
Because his now has a different meaning.
Okay, what you want me to do is take the positive and the negative, dissect it and hand it to you on silver platter or
it would
golden
be more
platter.
to try to identify with, as you're doing, the creator, I guess.
Yes.
To identify with the creator and then see the creator as kind of a dunce, because the premonition would come from a place the creator doesn't know where it comes from, is what you're saying.
That's creation, it's God. God is a creation, therefore it's inclusive of the premonition.
Yeah, but God doesn't know where creation came from.
God is creation.
My personal experience of making music and being in situations like you can play pieces that you know, pieces that you have learned, or you can be in a state of like a complete improvised performance. The people who can freestyle rhyme, like really ultimately, like they're not thinking ahead of what they're saying, they're actually just spitting out of like what's coming through, like, you know, the jazz greats always spoke of, like, the most amazing moments of making music was almost like it wasn't them, like something came through them and just happened. Well, I experienced that. I make sure that I get a chance to experience that on a regular basis because it's the most beautiful thing that I can, one of the most beautiful things that I can actually say that I experienced.
Oh, the definition would be all of the process then.
Every single thing.
Everything. But you know, I don't want to give
rather
everything
than,
to
rather
that.
than a conscious guide.
It is conscious.
A guide, though, is separate
No,
from
but
the
this is
process.
Aren't we conscious right now?
I could believe in
Well,
God.
you are part of God, therefore you are conscious, and God is conscious.
Premonition
too.
implies
I'm
it comes-
talking about it yet.
What?
I'm talking about it yet.
Right, but I love this idea though. I could believe in a God that's a dunce. That's a
what
total
it seems
idiot.
like. That's what he's saying, which is kind of appealing to me.
Yeah, no, because no, that is an appealing thought. Because if God
Doesn't
is
know
a
how he
dunce,
got there.
but he has no knowledge
Right.
because he created knowledge.
Right.
So how
Not
can he have
he.
knowledge?
It's
It.
knowledge.
It.
It itself is a community.
You know what I mean. It's a made
It's
up motto.
you know what I mean. I love that.
Don't play
Back to it.
Excuse me, as I said before, please upgrade it that you are the moment. You are not in the moment, you are the moment. That's the highest understanding of your being, where you don't have to say a thing, don't need to think. You have a freedom of your mind. You are a free person in this total fantastic universe.
I'm instrumental to totality, but that doesn't mean that a higher power has to govern that.
Oh no, we're not
It
saying
does
that. We're not
govern.
saying that it's governing.
It does
can't-
govern.
well, no. Governing would mean that it was separated from us.
It would be
But it's not
predetermination
separate.
would be governing.
No one's telling you what to. No
Excuse me.
God thing is telling you what to do. It's just doing it. It's just kind of all happening. I think that's
No,
what we're
but you know what? It
getting
doesn't
at
matter
on that
because
level.
what just happened right now, observing you two talking about responsibility
Yeah.
or letting go,
Responsible.
or just watching that is a perfect picture of the actual duality that we experience in our lives.
Exactly.
In and out, in and out. Like it was smart. It was beautiful. It's like watching the yin and yang.
And what
You're
is the
wearing a
difference?
black, you're wearing a white. No, it's beautiful.
So,
it was beautiful.
What is
No.
the black and what is the white here? Where is she, where am I in the sphere of the total?
So why call it two?
That's why it's called universe. Universe, which is one language. When we understand the one language, we will understand each other. Otherwise, we have argumentation, why, and different questions. So we need to understand the basic operation of the universe and how it works in order to move on with our life for the best survival that you mentioned that we can master by understanding rather than being ignorant of the fact that time creates the intangible zero. It is the highest power of the universe. That's the only thing that can create the universe, and that's universe.
I just grabbed creation in action, which is, it kind of continues the conversation in a similar way, except let's maybe instead of talking about creating a piece of art, what about the creation of everything? Go, George. Go, baby. Get him one.
I want this one.
He wants this one.
May I elaborate on your questions?
Oh.
Which come first?
The chicken or the what?
The
father of the emotion?
The thought or
the
emotions?
feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
When you talk about the interaction between the two, what do you suppose the primary drive or your experience? Your instinct first, which dictate the way you think.
But you can never escape yourself. So you close your eyes, you're still there, and all you have are your thoughts.
And that's why drugs come in good.
Where you may not even feel, you can still think. Some people.
That is my motto. There is no escape.
Yeah.
That's good. Escape.
So we're
No
doomed.
escape.
Existing. George picked a card.
Yeah.
I picked a card that says creation in action. And I picked that, if you wouldn't mind putting it back.
Sure.
Creation is action.
Because, for the following reason, we were at that time, and we've come back to it, talking about feelings and thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But those are feelings, those are thoughts. What about action? We had left out action, and there in front of me was a card I could choose that said creation in action. Well, I'm not sure which way it actually goes, if it's creating through action or if it's that you're creating some kind of action. Doesn't matter. That's what got me going, that if we limit ourselves to thinking and feeling, we've missed action.
The creativity in action, or the creativeness in action, I think, this is not going to be the same table it was 5 minutes ago, because we've expelled our energy on it, because it's got dust on it, because it's been exposed to the light for whatever reason, and it's non-stop.
It's simply
Everything is
non-static.
constant.
It's not static. It just keeps going.
It never ends, and it just kind of.
By the way, evolution cannot happen before creation. Creation has to happen first, and evolution
follows.
continues, okay, so it's one and the same.
But they're two different things.
Fine.
Very
listen,
different.
No, it's not two different things.
Timing
In your
and
book,
time.
you talked about
It's not.
timing.
It's not two different things. Time creates timing, so therefore they are one and the same.
Well, I don't
And
know about the same as my
humanity,
kid,
throughout history, humanity was talking about time more. They talked about money. Every step of the way, it's time. They talk all the time, but it's actually timing.
When you describe the system, just the flowers blooming, then dying and blooming and dying, humans, I feel, are the only organisms that could consciously just try to destroy those systems. It's not as if a dog would just like step on a flower for the sake of stepping on a flower out of spite of it. And then is your own system to like destroy the environment or harm others? Is that the systems acting on the external systems?
Because timing's the thing that allows for creation and action.
Chemical reactions.
So time has no action to it. There is no action in time.
Time
There's
just
only time.
time
But in
just
order
creates.
to
That's it.
in order to have an action, you need timing.
How else would you do it? Show me otherwise.
Right.
Sorta.
Maybe.
In comedy, there's no joke in without timing. There's no joke.
Well, we have, as humans, our relationship to our own insanity, which is the noise in our head that we constantly
Thank you
listen
for
to.
acknowledging.
You know, yeah, it's like we just start listening to this noise in our head, like this noise, and we interpret the noise, you know, as like these things that are personal to us, and it might be step on that flower because it's a flower, right? Yeah, because so the consciousness of the animals, the insects, and the planet itself, they might not be listening to that noise the way that we listen to it.
You know, we humanize our pets, all right? We think, oh, he must feel so guilty. I'm off out raving again. But it's not like that. They don't have that. They don't sit, they're just like, you know, they're timeless. They're in that moment, so they don't have that. Like you said, they're not aware of their own death. in the sense, or maybe they are so aware of it because it depends where you live in Africa or what kind of animal you are, but I just don't think they're burdened by guilt and emotions. Like we have all these
They're
different...
not burdened by language.
Yeah, they're not burdened by something.
So they do have their own languages.
They're not burdened by language.
That's different.
We are burdened, and maybe not just burdened, but our language
is a barrier.
Well, language is our access to being.
Originally, the way I understand it from the Jewish Bible, they talk about a name of God in a certain way. And that certain way comes down to time. So the Jews did know it, whether it's literally or by innate understanding of time as God. We don't know. I mean, it's such a process, but the fact...
Or intervention, we don't know.
But the fact that we can think about it right now, all it is a thought going on between us, interacting. And what is the thought? The eminent base of thought is time.
Or it's also what mediates our being, because to me, this is a table, but as soon as we call it a table, it's kind of like we were talking about before. As soon as you call it a table, you kind of lost the fact that it's this thing.
It's a ding dong.
Yeah, the language is a lie.
Like if you think about what Laura said, her concept of time is what passes between action to action, and you're kind of questioning like how that might be different than timing. So I think if you're just going through time from action to action without any like intention, then there might not be as much creation unless you're timing it within that allotted time between actions. You know what I mean?
If there's no motion, there's no time.
Yeah, or no action. Intention.
action.
Yeah, like time's always there, but the timing allows the creation.
Is
I
time
guess.
always there? That's what I don't get.
Yeah.
Can't get rid of it.
Timing is always there.
Timing
is
But
always
I like
there.
that. She just
In
introduced
evidence.
intention.
I like the
Intention
intention.
is an additional idea measure that I guess at least I haven't thought of. Maybe everyone else was on the same
I like that
page.
you brought up intention because it gives a reason for the timing. You know, you can base. You think you know time, but you'll never see. You see the effects of time, and you see where your place is in time. Or you can only direct your intention. It all depends on where you put that energy forward, and keeping the momentum is how you can propel yourself forward.
Is there an end to the rainbow?
Right. Exactly. There's no end to the, exactly. I know his answer to this. There's no beginning of the rainbow. There's no end of the rainbow. And really, the rainbow is something they're trying to sell you.
I don't know.
The pot of gold.
That's right.
I don't think that innately we would struggle so hardly and so difficultly and so adamantly if there wasn't something at the end of the rainbow. I mean, maybe because we can see, okay, it's the end of the world, global warming, blah blah blah, but these animals don't know any of that, and yet they're willing to, like you said, kill somebody else's youngborn in order for them to spread their own seed. Why? What is it that's going on in their DNA? Why is that planted there?
Okay.
Do you believe in magic?
All right. I'm just excited to read this one. I would like to compare myself to a zebra when I am a hummingbird.
Nice.
Look at his face.
I'm not sure what it means, so I guess that's why I wanted to read it, because I wanted to see.
What do you suppose it means?
Well,
I have an
She's
idea.
got it.
I have an idea. I don't have a big idea, but I have a little idea.
You got plenty of
I'm
ideas,
serious.
Patty.
And I know this sounds crazy, but I've heard that zebras are like wild and gnarly, like gnarly.
Yeah,
So,
vicious.
right? What do you know about zebras?
I've heard they're vicious. We think they're cute like horses.
Yes,
but
and they're not.
They'll
right?
cut you.
With that knife, that the dagger they keep in their pocket.
I never heard anything bad about zebras.
Oh,
in my life.
wow, you
This is
don't
the
wanna
first time
know.
I've ever heard that zebras
It's
are
bad
vicious
news.
animals.
You can't domesticate them. It's been tried
Could you
many
domesticate
times.
anything?
Yes.
Not even a kid. My kid's not domesticated. So I don't know about domesticating
I mean,
that.
it almost seems like the fact that we're actually talking about this and thinking about it is doing the opposite of what.
Opposite of what? I
We're not being it.
Should we go for a swim?
I think most of it's about. I think most of it's about survival. I think the animals are instinctively trying to survive, whether it's to eat or to procreate. And so whatever comes in between that could be. I mean, they always say that we're the only species that kills, but that's not really true.
No, that's not true.
That's not true.
Otters.
And I mean, so many do, but basically anything that interrupts. But the key is why. Why is it so important for us for our species, all species, to succeed? What is that makes that makes that animal or that human capable of killing to succeed?
I'd rather be vicious, like a zebra, and untamable.
There you go. My glass is half full.
But what's a hummingbird like?
Yeah, I want to know more about hummingbirds. Like, how do
Hummingbirds
they
are also
live?
kind of vicious, actually. Have you ever watched them fight each other over a feeder?
No.
They will dive bomb each other to the ground.
But did you ever awaken to the sound of street cats at night fighting? They're not really, they're making love. It's a Grateful Dead song. Did you ever awaken to the sound? Anyway, when we perceive a fight, or people or animals that are at each other's throats, might be lovemaking. It's all perception.
I like that. It's just another form of creating a society, of socializing.
But with our perceptions.
But to the hermit, a solitary position would be bliss.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are times where I need to just be alone, and I need to just
Totally.
and where I'd rather be in solitary than to be out and about. You know, but it's a balance of the energy.
That made me think about magic again when we were talking about what is the definition of magic. If you have like a roommate that doesn't put the toilet paper back on the roll, but you do every time. And you're like, do they think there's just a toilet paper fairy? It's magic. Somebody is exercising intention without another person being aware of that intention. I think sometimes that's really what seems magical, especially when you encounter it in the natural world, where it's like, why are those flowers opening up when it's nighttime and closing it? It's just sort of, it seems as though they have intention. I mean, maybe they do, maybe they don't, but that seems like where the thoughts about what's magic seem to enter the conversation.
What would be magic is if some of the flowers didn't.
Yeah,
close.
exactly.
Well, it's all consciousness too. I thought that next card over there would be a there's nice a segue. Thought maybe I was eyeing it, and then it just kept happening.
What is the card?
Consciousness is a phenomenon.
The first card said, I am future past.
Yeah.
The second card said, action in creation.
Yes.
So a person is perceiving his past. And a person may go from perceiving his past in the most negative light and eventually begin to perceive his past in a more positive light and say, I needed to go through that to make me the person I am now. And future is, like you guys are saying, it's really nothing. It's all about the present moment, because I'm setting up the future in the present moment. And that's action in creation, because you're creating the force field around you. You really are, with all your thoughts.
I would like to stop you right there. You are not creating the future.
You are.
You are the future.
You are. That's you. You are being.
Yeah. But you are not the one who is really dictating. You are so.
But it is. The Torah. That is one thing the Torah says that people misunderstand. The Torah says, a person is obligated to say, "For my sake, the world is created." So some people could think of that and say, "Oh, so I could cut you off. I could steal from you. I could do whatever the hell I want." And another person has to, that's how some people view it in the society we live in. And some people say, no, I am here to change this world. And if I don't change this world now in whatever positive way I can, and when we're not going in the right way, it's going to go in the egotistical way.
Are you changing the world right now?
I have done things. I have done things in the past
Right
to change
now,
the world.
are you changing the world right now?
I guess we
You
are.
doing it.
You're enlightening
You are
people, you're
doing
discussing it.
There's something that you said several times that quite actually it interests me is the I am God, right?
No, not
You
I
said-
am God.
or-
No, you are in trouble already.
Okay.
Am God.
Am God.
Not I.
Not
Forget
I,
the
okay.
I.
Am God.
Scratch the I. Am
Right.
is where it is.
Am God.
Yes.
Right. The depth of that.
It's what?
The depth of that, to
Yeah.
grasp that.
As deep as God, right?
Yeah, I quite enjoyed every time you said it. I was like, okay, that's, you know.
As soon as we understand one word, we understand the universe, you understand yourself, you simply understand. You devoid yourself from any belief system. Belief system is frivolous. It's, I believe this, and that. I know this, and that, but you don't know the whole. And that's where understanding comes in. Understanding, standing under, surrendering to your understanding, the total universe to be one with. And you are God. You are as much God as anything else. There's no somebody there up there managing the system, intelligence, what
Well, how do you know?
Huh?
I'm just saying, no one has the answer because when we do, we
no,
all
there
evaporate
is an
and die.
answer. Excuse me, I'm saying there is
I'm
an
just playing.
answer.
What I'm saying is, though, is that like, I think everyone needs something to believe in, right? And so
No.
some people believe that there is.
No.
Some people believe that there's a heaven and a hell.
That's the problem.
No, I know. I'm just reiterating that you are your own belief system, right? I don't know about anyone here when they've really needed help, and maybe you prayed, or maybe you. But did anyone ever really feel alone, or did everyone feel like they got the help they needed? Because I felt like I got the help I needed, and not because I believe in a belief system or a religious. I just felt I had an experience. Whether your conscience is your voice, whether what keeps you from stealing and doing bad things is your own. Or is it God? I don't know. Whatever it is, I'm glad it's around. You know what I mean? I don't know. Some people need to believe that there's a heaven and hell because it comforts them to know that there's more than just what they have here. I mean...
Rather than just yourself.
Yeah,
Just
I
being
don't
left
know
to
the
yourself.
answers. All I'm saying is who knows the answer to that question.
What I was speaking to is like maybe I had a thought long ago of, you see, you can say my life, or once you say my life, you have separated yourself from life, right? I'm different from life itself, right? And so that's what I was speaking to, like to actually be life.
Consciousness is a phenomenon.
The fact you get to this point, asking the question.
Oh, the card is full.
What
Well,
is-
we're gonna take a 10-minute break.
Take a
everyone.
break. I'm gonna put this back so we can continue.
I like the way you did that.
That was timing.
Yes. Conscious.
Don't want to waste our energy. Brilliance.
Intentional.
Pump your brakes,
Yeah.
brilliance. Hey.
Now it's time to do
Oh
this.
my gosh, ding dong. Ah, that's weird.
He had said the word worrying, and he said change it to the word caring. And I think what you guys were talking about being in the moment, like as a musician or as a creator, it's like sometimes like the less connected we are to that, like what you guys call ego. So it's like that's the phenomenon of consciousness, where it's taking us. And like you said about people when they get drunk, they're getting more, because we live in this society that's imposing these stories of you have to be like this, and if someone smiles, he's crazy, because why is this guy smiling at me at the street? Because it's all energy neutrality. Hi, how are you doing? Instead of being energy rich. And that's why, because we have so much energy poverty in the world, like sickness, and it's because we're energy poor. So it's like...
For what reason? One reason. Ignorance of the facts.
Yeah. And listen, there's some people that want to keep people ignorant.
Yeah, it's not accidental.
Yeah.
It's not an accident.
My experience in living in places where people don't have a lot, they were more energy rich than any of the other experiences. When I first came back from Accra in Ghana, first thing I did was come to Chicago Airport. And the first thing I saw was a very overweight lady who was customs. And I hadn't seen anyone who was so swollen that they ate so much that they were swollen. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just saying that this is a place where people only ate what they needed. And yet this woman had a really bad attitude and she was just really snippy. And I was like, you know, mate, that's when I realized that when you have so much stuff, so I don't know if just because people there's a poverty that means, you know what I mean? I feel like our basic humanity has been stripped from us.
Because it's
you
a
know?
consumer society that
Yes.
you always need this.
You're lacking.
You're never going to be good enough unless you're thin.
Here's the solution.
Yeah.
I have the solution right here. Buy it.
You need this face cream. You need to be this thin. You need to be.
But that's marketing. Invented by a guy named Edward Bernays. He was Sigmund Freud's nephew, and he utilized the same techniques. He called it propaganda, but Hitler took propaganda and made that a bad word. So he came to America with propaganda and said, "I got to change the name of this." And he changed it to public relations.
Wow.
And he invented public relations, which was, he's also the first person to ever take an automobile ad and put a hot girl in it.
The only thing that I really know that's special about zebras is that when they are in danger, then they travel in herds to give the illusion of a giant zebra to scare off any predators.
Whoa.
And so I'm like, perhaps the hummingbird wants to compare itself to being able to use other hummingbirds to give the illusion of being something more intimidating than it really is.
He is the father of modern lack economy, of making it that we are under-resourced and that the consumer society will provide what you need, and when we're really under-resourced in the fact that we're not connected to the totality.
To ourselves.
That's ourselves and the totality. When you said my life is the break, like as soon as you say my life, you're separated from it. I thought when you pulled consciousness, I was like, as soon as you say consciousness, it's not understanding that you're part of the totality of consciousness. Having individual consciousness is when you were talking about animals, right? As soon as you start separating from the totality of consciousness, and you have self, that's when you're not part of. A bug is part of the totality of consciousness. There's no consciousness, it is part of it. Exactly. We have all of this distance from the totality of consciousness because we have our own consciousness. It's like, no. Let go of that consciousness and immerse back into the totality of consciousness.
They show these time-lapse or slow-motion hummingbirds, right? And how they have these little relationships with one another, and part of their relationship is that they will fight for a territory, but they're not really fighting. Oh. Or is it that they're fighting to the death?
They're just making faces.
You got me so confused now. I'm just trying to.
Is it? Does anyone know anything about hummingbirds?
No.
Can I make it up?
Edmond, you're the hummingbird expert.
I think consciousness is a huge responsibility, an overwhelming one as well. And I ask myself, especially when I was little, like 5, 6, 7 years old, I used to say, why do I think? Why do I see things? Where do I get all this? I used to ask myself all these questions.
We all want to be something else. We live our lives like that. So I'm a filmmaker, right? So what do? I get all these people together to live this life. I want this to happen today as opposed to sitting at home doing something different. So I want to be the zebra, but maybe I'm always going to be this. I'm this guy. I'm doing all these things as this person, and everything else is something else that I want to be. But is that so far from what I actually am?
I think of that often. It's sort of like
I have to admit that when I allow my brain to go there, I get a little lost and it gets a little creepy. Okay, it's sort of like repeating the same word over and over again. All of a sudden you forget what it means.
Yeah.
Okay, it's sort of weird, and I get, and I try and bring myself back. But when I was a kid, I used to play that game all the time. And my father would whack me, and then it would end. But but seriously, it's like, no, I didn't know a lot of poetry when I was a kid, but I wrote life. We had like a class in the 4th grade or something. I said, life is a voice in your mind, because it wouldn't stop. You know, it just doesn't stop. And that's why we probably strive to meditate. It all comes back to that. But in order to take a break. But at the same time, maybe not even to meditate, but to find our place and our purpose. And I think when we find our place and our purpose, that's when we get that break.
Maybe I'm the biggest pretender, because all I seem to want to do is what nature seems to do automatically without anyone's assistance. So are we all hummingbirds wanting to be zebras? It's an impossibility to be the zebra, but does that mean that goes against our original thing, which we had here, the first realistic illusion? Are we all just living the realistic illusion daily?
100%.
It's interesting that you say find, because in the dichotomy of language, the opposite of find being lose. And to me, I'm more interested in losing my place. You know, you talk about the quest to find the place, and I discover all of the things we're talking about through that loss, through the losing who I am, losing what the goal is, losing all of it. Well, that's the loss of all of it. But I think what we were talking about with language before is that one doesn't exist without the other. Finding and losing are two sides of the same coin, that it's still the same direction. But you use the word find and I use the word lose, but we're still striving for the same place.
I'm just thinking.
I learned so
100%.
I don't know.
It goes in correlation with the other statement, be objective about your subjectivity. Wow.
Right, and then leading to the easiest statement for myself, that means that we can no longer claim ourselves ever to be a believer in God.
Bravo, everybody.
Or and impossible to be an atheist. It's just impossible. You cannot be either of those two. You were born and you will always exist as an agnostic.
Brontosaurus.
You're very sweet, thank you. Brontosaurus. Did you think he saw us?
It doesn't exist. There was never.
It's right here. It's right here.
But it's not. It doesn't exist.
There's two other chicken nugget fossils next to each other.
Dream. That's a good one for you.
When you think.
No, you're agnostic all the time. Why?
No, it's what you think you are. It's all in your mind.
Because God.
Yeah,
right?
I don't know what this is about.
Yeah, what's going on here?
I was getting to...
As long as religion comes up, all I want to do is play slapstick.
Yeah. But it's not religion. But that's not religion.
That's all we can do.
But it's not religion. Religion is only a set of laws, rules, and regulations. We're talking about where religion comes from in the first place. Why put the laws, rules, and regulations? We're talking about being agnostic because if God is everything, then we are all God, and we are all questioning ourselves.
Well, there's one way of thinking of it that everything in the universe is just you. I mean, I'm getting out of Freud. There's an Egyptian myth about Hadith and Nui, and they're two, a god and a goddess. And Nui represents the totality of all things, that she is what interconnects all of us, that we are all one. She represents one view of the universe, that we are all connected and we're all just expressions of this one universal energy.
She's the mother.
She is the mother, so she is the totality of all things. She is married to another god named Hadith. Hadith represents that you are the only thing in the universe. All of this right now is a projection out of your mind. None of this exists except for you. So he represents the other end of the spectrum, from all of us are one to you are the only thing that exists, and we're all just a projection of that. But the crazy part is they're married. And how are they married? How did they ever find common ground? How did they ever find a moment that they might actually communicate with each other? Yeah.
The universal language.
And in Western philosophy,
in Western culture, we believe that that it's a zero-sum game. That if I'm all for myself, that I'm taking away from everything else. But Hadith and Nuit find that they line up in one place, and that one place is when both are brought to 100%. When the will, and it hinges on the word will. So in Nuit's world, will is inevitability. What will happen? It will rain. The rock will fall down the hill. That's will in Nuit's world. In Hadith's world, it's will. It's what do I want? What is my will? And so they're the polar opposites. But the true will is when you find that the thing that you desire most is actually that the thing that the universe will have happen. And you line those two things up, and the footprints light up in front of you because that's the only thing you're going to possibly do.
So who's
and
in
that's
charge?
Just being again.
That's just being.
Once again, that we come back down to this one point of the ultimate goal of all of our existence, what would make this world the greatest place possible, is if we were all being. I want to ask, since the word dream comes up, what is the dream now?
How does it work?
No. I don't care about how it works for this question. I can do it later, but for what I'm thinking right now, what I want to know, or interested in knowing, is what is the outcome if we do that? So it sounds to me that we all have a problem with not being. That not being isn't good enough. Not being just being the being. We all want to be in that meditative being state. If we were all there, this world would be a what?
Laura, would you say the act, the play, was information? No? No?
Is this,
what is it?
No, that's
is
a good
this
question.
picture on the wall information?
It's everything is information.
As soon as you say everything is information,
exactly,
it loses me.
So I would let go of the wrong and the right of it, as much as we live with our perceptions, right? And for the most part, the time and the realm that we live in, most people perceive a separation. So we live believing in this illusion of separation by and large. It might not be everybody at this table or most people at this table, but by and large, we live in the belief that we are separate from that ant that I just stepped on. Mm-hmm. So there is, and it may not be bliss, but what we speak about is the brief moments where we actually fall into the space of total connectivity.
So a book is really specifically actually just a mathematical form of information to give you, to create
What's
everything.
the word? The word is
reductionism,
and I think you're being too reductionistic.
I think your brain has to process it, and it's just a processing of. So you can call it information, or you can call it what it evokes from you. It's always up to interpretation, or how you take it. That's why art, the physical art, is so intriguing because it can mean so much to somebody, or you can pass by it and not even notice. How many how many paintings are there in this house that we haven't even seen yet, or we walk by, or there's certain things that strike out at us. It's what you're relating to the interpretation of it. But it is it's a process. So I could see how it can be called information as a term for information because your brain has to process it.
And it maps to different informational sources for different people. Like that may remind you of someone you know that no one else knows.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. He brought up the hierarchy of needs. So what I'm thinking, because you're talking about in different cultures, they don't act like this. So maybe when your hierarchy of needs, when the lower level are taken care of, then something in our brains clicks in and starts to want to entertain ourselves by buying into all this stuff or creating this.
And then you complicate yourself, and it becomes
so maybe when
you're not happy.
Yeah, maybe when you're just working on those needs, like maybe our brains need something to work on.
Well, I think it's interesting because why is there like, let's say, rape or murder when you can have sex anytime you want, you can buy it. My sister just had a baby. She's like, it's the hardest thing I've ever done. But if you go to certain places in the world, a whole village helps you raise a baby, and it's not the hardest thing you've ever done because everyone is helping. You know, here it become a different, you know, it's about control and frustration, and we don't know what we're doing, and guys are confused about whether they should open doors for us, and we want to have the same this, and it's just so many mixed messages because of the noise. And again, I'm going to go back to dreaming. Our simplest state is that how many of you have just been on a beach and just breathed the air and gone, oh my God, yeah. And okay, maybe this takes me out of my moment of happiness and my past self into my future self, but who gives a shit because I'm happy on the beach. So I'm on the beach, right? And I'm going, oh my God, I'm in the PP Islands, Thailand. I'm here. Right for that second. Do I have an expensive car? Do I have cable? Do I have any of that stuff? No, I just have the ocean and what's around me.
And I think you're being too reductionistic. That is, if you're giving me a manual about how this microphone works, that writing might be information. As soon as you use the same term to describe a section of Pride and Prejudice, or nothing so simple as only passion, whether you're talking about Shakespeare's Julius Caesar or Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice or so many other books, you can call that information, something that's going in, but it's reductionist. It's highly. It's. Don't you think it's pulled something away from
George?
I think it depends on what the word information sounds like.
It's a large.
You know, like when I think of information, I used to think of it in that sort of very cold, calculated way. This is just the nitty-gritty. But I guess if you expand your sense of what information means, then I don't think it's necessarily reductionist.
Well, then we can go all the way back to ones and zeros, if we want, and say it's all ones and zeros. When we've said it's all ones and zeros, even if it's true, so what? What do we tell them after we say, oh, it's all information?
Then you have room for creativity. And creativity is the power of life.
Edmond said it earlier. He said something earlier that you're speaking to is that we live in a past intention and a future intention, something to that degree, right? And some people don't know quite how far ahead we are. Personally, like when I look at big oil, like I'm going like big oil is fighting and kicking and like I'm gonna survive. And I'm looking at the electric car and I'm looking at these new technologies and the fact that we're consciously going like, we need wind, we need solar, and it's growing, and this oil giants are going like, we gotta survive, let's start another war. Let's do that. You know, there's actually all exists. There's a part of me that looks at it all and goes like, you know, like at some point I gotta knock the wrong out of everything.
Creativity is the flower of life.
You just said that.
I just said that.
Well, it's hard too. I was like, it's perfect.
Synchronicity.
I didn't do it.
Yes, you did.
No, I did not.
Yes, you did. You said it. She picked it.
If God can create the ocean, how is the rabbi said?
Right, the rabbi said,
yes.
You know, someone who was a non-believer came in one day and he said, this is a beautiful painting. Who did it? And the guy who was trying to convince the other guy, he said that there's a God. He said, God did it.
Rabbi.
He said, God did it. He said, how's that possible? And it was a picture, it was a painting of the ocean out there. He said, well, if God didn't create that, why could he create this painting over here? Meaning, you know, someone's got to create it. God created it through the human, you know, the instrument of a human being, but it was created by God, if you want to call it everything.
Yeah,
we're naive to think that we haven't been being controlled mentally and socially and by the government. We're naive to think that. I mean, no, I'm saying that. In other words, we're as much controlled as any other small tribe is by their leaders.
Right. But as There's a part of the
Like a
conversation that where
you know what I'm saying? It is a society.
I think it's funny how the internet has opened us all up to be so communal with each other, but yet it's just separated us. But the beauty of it,
and that's scary too.
But the beauty of it is that we can go back and forth between everything that we have missed and catch up and connect. There's so many more people in the world right now, and we're in touch with them, and we're just products of our surroundings.
I like that word ritual, because then I think rituals are really creative endeavors that are really meant for individual pleasure. Sort of like people, the things that people have rituals with are sort of just like their own personal
Well, so the question
creation.
is, if when Laura writes some verse, if that's a ritual.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
maybe
purpose.
it's not because you want it to be different every time and you want others to see it, but to experience it. But maybe that's true of rituals also.
George, I raise my hand. I raise my hands. I surrender. You're absolutely correct.
About what?
He had time to think about that.
It's not information.
Oh. This is not
It's
information.
not information. It's change.
So I'd like to pick up. I'd like to answer that.
That's information.
Change.
I'd like to
Change.
pick up on a point Jill made in passing, that you read Pride and Prejudice and don't remember it, but there are other things that you do remember, and it got me to thinking. You'll see how this goes together with information and change. So now I'm going to argue in favor of information and change.
Because the information changed.
No, listen to this.
Surrender.
The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, a rather thin novel. I've read it every 10 years, and as you can see, I've had a fair number of every 10 years in which to reread it. And the reason I reread it is it's different every time, even though the words are the same. So I'm thinking about that ever since you made your comment about Pride and Prejudice, but then other things. And I recommend your reading for the first time and then later rereading Great Gatsby, because it's going to deliver. It's the same words. You can say it's giving me different information.
Just like a movie.
If it's a good movie, or a good book, every time it's different information, or it's changed. I've changed. It's changed. There's something different about The Great Gatsby every time I reread it.
I like that.
What do you do? George, please.
Excuse the interruption, but we have 2 types of ice cream this evening. We have cherry chocolate chip, or we have coffee. So, what would you guys like?
I'll take coffee.
Cherry chocolate chip.
Cherry for me.
You know what's happening right now?
Yes.
You are the star of the show.
He's the driver. This is the actually important question of the night.
Isn't it all came down to this,
It
right?
all came down to this question: is which ice cream would you like?
If God is change, people go to churches and temples, would we be going to a changing room?
So maybe it brings us all to a place to where we can have larger discussions. There's, things die,
That's life. That's
new
the cycle.
ideas, old ideas die and new ideas come into being. And it's just all along, it's just maybe a process towards something.
But has anything really changed?
Well, is it interesting that we have to sit around a table to make this happen?
All right, here we go.
I make it wait as well.
Whoa.
Is it an O or a 0?
Is that an O or a 0?
Is it an O or a 0?
Or I don't know, you tell me.
It could be both.
Let's make it as a 0.
0.
You know what it is.
It's a 0.
What is it?
What's a 0?
What is 0?
It's before there was 1. Time. But 0, 1, 0 is time.
No.
No.
No?
There's no such thing as 0, 1, 0.
No, but what is 0? That's a good question. What is 0?
How can she be in control of what's going to happen the next moment or 5 minutes from now, a day from now, when she is subject to the outside forces?
That's true.
That's it.
She's in control of her
That's
perception of reality.
Yeah.
She controls her perception.
That's the illusion right there.
No, but it's your perception of what's happening.
She can perceive it's her time to go.
You know, I don't want to out you as this, but you're an elementary school teacher. So how would you explain 0 to a class of 3rd graders?
Yeah.
Good one.
Nice.
I actually made a connection when we were talking about 0, and I was like, this reminds me of the book that I read to my kids when we talk about 0. And it's a book that says what is 0, or it's like 0. Oh, it says it's actually kind of like a poetry book, and it says 0 are the leaves on a tree. And it just, it's great. I'll lend it to you.
Zeros are the leaves on a tree.
Yeah. So it kind of explores 0 as the absence of something, but it also helps students know that 0, like when I explain 0, I explain 0 as a placeholder.
Oh, nice.
Because 0 really is not nothing. In 1,000, those zeros are important. Because they're holding places. Like if you want to think about it in base 10.
And you can take that thought and then say 0 is the dark matter. It's the thing that keeps all of this having it's a place where the universe gets to play and exist. That is 0. That is the nothing. That is the dark matter. That is the womb. That is God's bedroom. Whatever you want to call it. That's what is basically either holding all this together or a placeholder.
Why? So, but it's significant.
Yeah, super significant.
It is. So we need it.
May I say, with my experience, to explain the 0?
Yeah.
Well, I have gone through this for the last 35 years until one day I have to come up with a solution. How do I explain 0 to anybody, not only children? So I found an easy way, because I don't like to think. So I was thinking, just say, do you know what a 1 is? It's 1 minus 1.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. I take it from there.
There's a tiger in the jungle, and the tiger runs up on
An elk.
An elk, and devours the elk.
That's not bad. That's survival.
That's not bad.
That's your story.
It's the same story. It's a bad thing for the elk. It's a bad thing for the elk.
You have placed your perception on it.
But me being stabbed and dying.
For someone else might be surviving.
Is it?
Might be.
We don't know.
I agree with that.
Putting
I see what you're
context on
saying.
it.
That's fine.
No, this one we're ready. Okay.
Can you get in there?
Give it to her. Push the whole thing.
This is your own choice.
God, yeah.
Pick one for you.
That's all it takes. Change of place.
Oh.
Here she goes.
The word is psychotropic.
Psychotropic. Going back to the beginning of the conversation.
Bring it on home.
Yeah. That's how you started it, remember?
Land that baby.
Go ahead, no, you go ahead.
You go.
No, you go.
You go. All right,
What
we
does that have to
started
do
in
with
the 60s. when acid first came out in Woodstock. Those were really good days, I think.
Or whether you accept
So
responsibility
what about the
for
situations where there are no choices? Where it's
Where's
not
the-
bad.
As Hamlet said, I could be trapped inside a walnut and considered myself master of all space and time if it were not for my dreams.
And someone else talked about creating something only for yourself. I don't know if anybody has ever done any psychotropics, but you create something and so brilliant at the time. The next day you look at it and you go, oh my God, and you put it aside somewhere else, you know.
But the beauty of life is that we're all full of holes and we each fix each other. And if everyone was perfect and everything was great, we would never have any contrast or anything. So actually, it is all as it should be. Nothing is new. We're just reliving this loop, and it's fine.
On psychedelics, I do no art, 0. Absolutely no art. I cannot do.
Is the art.
Yeah, psychedelics create the art. Like I open myself up to whatever the universe is going to throw at me, as opposed to anything that I want to throw at the universe. And it really changes that's almost the biggest perspective change that I get with psychedelics. It really does remove, even though it's total ego, because yes, you've opened your subconscious mind to your conscious mind, and now you have a super highway that's going back and forth and back and forth. So there's nothing that's going to be more egocentric than that, because you finally got all of yourself happening at the same time. But the desire to throw stuff out of yourself and the desire to let stuff in becomes two different things. Where normally we are these creatures that want to speak. I want my turn speaking, or I want this. Then you take those psychedelics and it's just like, I just want it to come into me. Everything, come to me, come, and just let it flow.
Personally, I blame the Spice Girls for everything.
Oh yes.
Realistic illusion.
This is all a very realistic illusion.
I feel like life is a realistic illusion. I feel like existing is a realistic illusion. It's sort of like it is what you make it. I've been doing it my whole life, and it's been working for me my whole life.
Like you, I certainly didn't want to write or say or, paint or sing anything about it at the time. It took me, I don't think I ever did literally report on that through any art form.
Well, Terence McKenna I always liked what Terence McKenna always said. If he could only just bring one little trinket back, like because the psychedelic experience, you're getting all these new trinkets. It's like, gosh, bring one of these back, and Martin's gonna blow his mind. He's gonna be like, where'd you get that?
We are aliens to ourselves. Sometimes we know ourselves in a fleeting moment. Most of the time, we're aliens to ourselves. We have no control, and we don't know who we are. We like to believe, we like to perceive who we are and follow accordingly, but I don't know.
Is it possible some people have a strong sense of self and others don't?
We're working progress.
Yes, I do believe that people do have a strong sense of themselves.
All about you.
That doesn't mean they're right. It just means that they have a sense of themselves.
Am I going to continue down this path, or am I going to turn around and go back to where I came from? Am I going to reach for life, or am I going to just let it go? And I felt that in that moment I had the choice, and I could just let it go and just kind of see what happens. And I said to myself, no, you know what? I will find out what's over there eventually. That's a guarantee. So let's go back and do as much as we can here before we jump the fence, because on the other side of the fence, I'm going to find that out at some point. So it was turning around and walking back and saying, let's find out. But it wasn't bad. Whatever it was, I didn't feel like it was bad. So since that point, I've never really had a fear of that thing happening.
See, that's funny, because I have.
Yeah, see, I don't have a fear.
Because you didn't know the difference.
Because I didn't get that choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just kept swimming.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to ask me what is the closest thing that you're going to express death to, swimming laps back and forth, and it sounds absolutely terrible,
right?
And I don't want to go there.
It sounds like a circle of hell. Yeah, Dante had one with a...
And I was a 10-year-old innocent little child,
right.
So like you can't be like, well, that kid went to hell.
Yeah,
exactly. Well, maybe some.
It's funny what you said, because I don't fear death anymore after that. But I value life so much more.
Well, I want to get as much out of it.
Yeah, it's because I realize how close we are at any minute. Like some idiot can be driving down the street. We're so connected, and we think we're all separate. We're so connected. It's like
because no matter what you say, what is the experience? Don't you think what you just did is creation in action? Therefore, connect the creation process with the creativity. You are creating at all times. You are part of the process. And that is the beauty when they said that we are the image of God, because that is God itself. The fact that you can envision something that is not there, that's God itself. It's just like flowers grow every year, and how does it do it? We are part of that system that is self-conscious. The whole universe is consciousness. If you see it in this fashion, you have nothing else to search for, because you understand everything collectively. You are not breaking down to this as tomato, this is a carrot, this is plate. No, collectively, that's how the animal kingdom experience the universe.
That was wonderful. So if you all unplug your mics and lay them on the table in front of you.